Welcome into the Saints Insider Podcast. Today is Wednesday, December the 10th. Zach Ewing joined by Jeff Duncan and Luke Johnson. To my right on the screen, we are sponsored by Bank Plus, and we are here after a win for just the third time this season. And this one, Luke, I don't know. It feels like it comes with more optimism than either of the first two. Maybe that's recency bias, but I think the performance of Tyler Shough, the fact it was on the road over a potential playoff team, says a lot more about where this franchise may be going.
Totally agree. Especially, look, the Giants win was another bad team. The Panthers win. I mean, at the time, I remember after it happened, a lot of people were saying it's just the Panthers, even though they're currently in a tie for first place in the NFC South right now. I think the Bucs are a different story altogether. And you're talking about a team that's won the last 4 division titles. You're going to their place. You're beating them in a driving rainstorm. I thought there was so much about that game that you feel really good about. And I think number one, and I know we're going to talk a lot about him on the show, but look, Tyler Shough leading a go-ahead drive in the fourth quarter, like that stuff has rarely happened since Drew Brees left town. It was I looked it up. It was the 5th go-ahead touchdown drive in the fourth quarter, in the final 10 minutes of the fourth quarter that they've had since Drew Brees went down. And only the second time they've converted that into a win. So that to me is the biggest part of that game. There's a lot of people who had hands in it, but the rookie quarterback making plays on the stretch is the thing that gives you the biggest sense of optimism.
Jeff, do you agree with that optimism, with that assessment?
No, I think Luke makes a great point. It was the way they won, not necessarily that they won. The fact that they were able to drive down the field, take the lead, and then the defense, stopping the Bucs late. That just hasn't happened, like Luke said. And the game-winning drives, fourth quarter comebacks have been largely absent from this team. They get behind, and it's over. They never seem to come back. So to see a young quarterback orchestrate that type of performance, and then you could kind of see the body language of his teammates. I thought it was really revealing when he scored on that long run after the scramble to go ahead. How many of his teammates were running down the field to help pick him up, to congratulate him? That's a real thing. That says a lot, and I think he's galvanizing this team right now before our eyes. And stepping into that leadership role that I think he was trying to navigate. I mean, he's a young guy. He's very humble. He understands his place on the team, but he also understands he's the starting quarterback. So it's a little bit of a dice game he's playing right now, trying to step into that role. But I think with each game like this, he becomes more comfortable becoming the leader and owner of this offense.
Yeah, so this is going to be the Shough show. We'll have a few other things to look forward to, and obviously on Friday we'll talk rematch with Carolina, which is coming up. I want to spend a few minutes on the defense too, but for the most part, this is Tyler Shough, and how meaningful his progression is to this franchise. So that's today's show. Do want to let you know that Saints Insider is sponsored by Bank Plus. From small business to big business, home loans to bank anywhere technology, Bank Plus is here for New Orleans. New deposit customers can reach out today to learn about incredible rate specials. Learn more at bankplus.net. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. And Jeff, what you're talking about is like his teammates running over to him and the way he scored that touchdown, which is being played on all the highlight reels. I mean, he should have been sacked. I think most quarterbacks would have been sacked on that play. Instead, he turns it into a game-winning touchdown run. Demario Davis called it the it factor. This is all stuff we're talking about, Luke. Like Tyler Shough's numbers in that game were not that good, especially passing the ball. Now, it was played in a driving rainstorm, but even overall, his numbers are not eye-popping. What is eye-popping is the fact that what he's doing on big plays, what he's doing to win games, and we're seeing the results of that.
Yeah. I was going to say, Luke. I mean, Luke's brought it up earlier. The clutch performance, I think, outshines the stats. Forget the stats. It's when you make these moves, when you make these big plays. I thought those passes he made late when they were trying to protect the lead were huge. Just converting third downs. We haven't seen a lot of that either. So it's more about, the way he's doing it more than the actual numbers. So you got to overlook that.
Yeah, I mean, I think numbers are important when you're contextualizing a player's performance. I think you can look at advanced stats, you can look at traditional stats, and they will tell you something about a player. But for a team that has been kind of wandering in the quarterback wilderness for like 5 years, people here, I think, just want to see the stuff that Demario Davis is talking about when he's talking about the it factor. The stuff Jeff is just talking about here. We saw it in that first Carolina win when he's converting 3rd and 7, 3rd and 12, 3rd and 13, 3rd and 10. Those are big time plays that, like, we've looked at this team for the last 4 or 5 years, and they're not making those. They're not making the go ahead touchdown drive late in the 4th quarter. Or if they are, when I referenced that other game they won with a go ahead touchdown, it was Taysom Hill on a 60-yard touchdown run with Andy Dalton as quarterback. That wasn't the quarterback making the play. Yes, this is the stuff that gives people hope, and I think we were talking about it this morning, when our staff was getting together and kind of coming up with how we were going to attack this week's coverage. Yeah, I think the Tyler Shough numbers don't necessarily reflect exactly how he's played, and we're looking at a fairly small sample size here, and I think if you could look at some of the stuff he's done, you'd expect the numbers to be higher. There was the dropped touchdown that would have given him a go-ahead score inside the final minute against Miami. There was a number of these interceptions you can explain away. Now, you can't just continue doing that. But when you're talking about a young quarterback who's got 5 interceptions, you can say 4 of them, there's reasons for it. There was one that hit Chris Olave in the hands. There was 2 miscommunications between him and Chris Olave. The latest one being Tyler Shough throwing a go ball and Olave, snapping off the route after the throw. And then there was a Hail Mary situation in the closing seconds of a loss. I'm not super worried about that stuff. I'm not super worried about the stats right now because my eyes are telling me everything I need to know about him.
Yeah. What's the line that Justice Potter Stewart, this is before your all's time, right? When 1964, they asked him to define obscenity. He goes, I don't know. I know it when I see it, that famous line. That totally applies to what we're talking about with Tyler Shough. It's hard to define what the franchise quarterback is or what makes you the guy, but you kind of saw it in that game. And it's hard to define, though. Numbers don't really define it. It's more of like a feel or a presence or something. And I've heard some of the Saints former players talking about that on social media the last few days. Is there's a presence about him. And it's kind of hard to quantify, but I think we're seeing it play out right now.
Yeah, and I think this, like I said, I think the stats will follow eventually.
Yeah,
and that's the hope, right? I mean, what I'm talking about, just so that it's all out there, is like Spencer Rattler, 8 touchdowns, 5 picks. Shough has 5 touchdowns, 5 picks. Rattler's QB rating 86.8. Shough is 81.6. Then you look at some of the more advanced metrics. EPA per play, Rattler is a minus 0.1. Shough is a minus 0.9. CPOE, completion percentage over expectation, Rattler has him beat. Success rate, Rattler has him slightly beat. So it's weird to talk about this improved quarterback play when statistically it hasn't been improved. Now, a couple of things that you guys have mentioned, like some of those interceptions for Shough have been pretty easily explained away. I know Rattler could probably explain away a couple of his too. I think the other thing is Spencer Rattler, he wasn't horrible, right? We talked about how improved he was at the beginning of the season. So we need to give him some credit there too. But the bottom line is, in crunch time, Shough is getting it done where maybe Rattler wasn't.
That's completely the difference to me, right? I don't want to turn this into like a Shough versus Rattler thing because I as we've said multiple times this year, I thought Rattler played really well, and the Saints had to see what they had in Tyler Shough, and I think they made clearly the right call, right? Even though the numbers are slightly in favor of Spencer Rattler, and you're talking about a second-year player who had Rashid Shaheed and Chris Olave and Alvin Kamara and Eric McCoy, and you're not playing in driving rainstorms. He played probably some better defenses, but I think if they're fairly even with a slight edge to the second-year guy who had better options, and one's a rookie who's your second-round pick who has every other intangible you can imagine, then I don't know, I still feel really good about it because I thought Rattler played some pretty good ball this year.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, let's not fall into the trap of social media comparing. I mean, let's just talk about Tyler Shough, and I mean, everyone. Spencer Rattler's fine. There's nothing wrong with Spencer Rattler. There's a reason the Saints went to Tyler Shough. There's a reason they drafted him. They knew what Spencer Rattler was in the building. They drafted Tyler Shough. I mean, so the organization is invested in this guy, and they have a reason to believe he's going to be their quarterback of the future. And Spencer Rattler, is a fine backup. In my opinion, I don't know if they win either one of those games if he's quarterbacking though, and that's just the harsh reality of it.
So let's focus on Shough, because you're right. I am in no means trying to call for Spencer Rattler to retake the job or anything. I'm more pointing out this is interesting, that, as you said, Luke, his numbers haven't really followed yet. So what is the next step for Tyler Shough? I mean, when do the numbers follow? For me, it's a little bit of consistency. We still see some drives where he misses some throws, maybe holds onto the ball for too long. We talk about the miscommunication on some of those interceptions. Some of that has to be on Tyler Shough. So, Luke, if you going forward these last 4 games, what are the next steps you'd like to see from Tyler?
I mean, you mentioned the word. It's consistency. That's the biggest part. I mean, I think you could look at every single game he's played this year and come away with stretches of it that make you feel really, really, really good about it. And there's a lot of those games where there are long stretches where you're just like, I don't know. So I think that, to me, when you're looking at the 2 wins that he has authored as a starting quarterback for the Saints, the Carolina Panthers and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, those are the ones where he was most consistent throughout the game, where the stretches where it wasn't as good did not last as long. But when we look at him against the Falcons or the Dolphins, the Dolphins game, they had 63 net yards of offense in the first half. Like, if I'm going to know that he's the guy and know that this is something they can truly build around, like, I do want to see some games where it's just there for 4 quarters or for 3 quarters, and I want to see it more consistently than we have seen it. And this is coming from somebody who really does, like, I think I am fully on board with them just leaning into Tyler Shough, building the roster around him, because I've seen so much good from him so far. But I do want to see a little bit more consistency down the stretch of the season, because I think it's there for him to tap into.
Yeah, and I think it's natural for him to kind of go through these growing pains early on. He's kind of finding his way, and let's face it, he doesn't have a ton of help around him. I mean, he's got a rebuilt interior offensive line. He's got a makeshift receiving core, a backup running back. Just almost every facet of the offense he's dealing with is somewhat shorthanded, and he's still able to kind of cobble out these wins. To me, the wins is the biggest stat I need to see right now. So how he performs, how he leads, the belief that his teammates have in him. I mean, they know more than any of us. They're in there. They see what he's doing during the week. They see how he commands the huddle. That's good enough for me right now. And I think we'll see incremental progress as we go down the stretch. He's getting some really favorable matchups, I think, that he's going to get. And I expect we'll see some of that progress. But I think we've seen the progress right away with his connection to Devin Vele. I mean, they're getting more out of him right now than they ever have. And that's really a promising development for this offense. I mean, we didn't see really any of that a month ago. And now you're seeing, hey, this receiving core, they might be able to make do with this, or maybe not have to have a major overhaul to the receiving core with the way he's come on, and of course Chris Olave's talent.
That's the other point that I wanted to make is, last year Spencer Rattler really struggled as a rookie, and some of that rightfully was tempered by, well, look at what he was working with. He had backups at wide receiver, backups on the offensive line. It was really a second string offense essentially that he was commanding. Well, Tyler Shough's situation right now is better than that, but I don't know how much better. I mean, he's got Chris Olave and Devin Vele. I think his receivers are certainly better than what Rattler had at this time last year. But on the O-line, Tali Fuaga missed on Sunday, and Asim Richards, who's his backup, had to leave the game. He's operating with a third string right tackle. Eric McCoy is out again. The guards are a mess. Like, this is not a good situation Shough is working in, Luke.
No, not at all. It is definitely better than what we saw during the closing stretch of last year. Like, there's no question about that. But it is still not a very good offense. Like, it's just not. I've been very encouraged by what I've seen from Devin Vele. I think the receiver options are fine. I think Juwan Johnson's played better since Tyler Shough's been in the lineup, which it might be a credit to Tyler. But I think it's clear that they need to address this offense in the offseason, whether it's through free agency or the draft. They need to get an explosive playmaker or two in there. They really need to address the offensive line, which we've been saying for years. I mean, look, we thought that this was going to be their best offensive line in a long time this year, and it hasn't panned out. They have a lot of holes there, but they're still getting some things done in a way that they can win games, which I think, to me, says a lot about what Shough has brought to this offense. Definitely need to add more, though. Like, that it has to be a focal point for this team this offseason. They need more in a lot of areas. Like, they need to get some players that really fit what Brandon Staley does, because I really like what their defense has done this year, despite it not being really exactly a fit for what he wants to do schematically. But seeing what Shough has done over these last couple of weeks, I would really prioritize getting some weapons for him.
Yeah, like a Jeremiah Love, for instance.
I knew you were going to bang the table for Love.
Just saying.
Look,
we'll fit in well there.
We'll see what happens over this last stretch of the season. If they win some games, maybe they're picking number 10, and it makes a lot more sense than if they're picking number 3.
Yeah, they have that real. That could be a reality with where they're drafting.
Yep.
On that note, what do we think of Devin Vele now that he's gotten some extended run? I mean, I was pretty impressed with him against a good running defense, against behind this makeshift O-line. Like, I thought, is he the starter of the future? I don't know, but I think he has a role in the future of this team. He's
an NFL player, man. I really like a lot of what I've seen from him. And it's not just as a runner, which he's just been okay, but I think their run game as a whole is kind of broken right now. And I don't put a lot on the running backs. Like, I don't think Alvin Kamara is the player he once was, but I don't think Alvin Kamara is a player who's averaging 3.2 yards per carry or whatever it is this year. I think schematically, I think the offensive line, I think a lot has had to do with that. So, like, maybe he's better than what we've seen so far as a runner, but, like, I do think he gives you a lot as a pass protector, which is, like, you cannot just dismiss that. That's a huge, important component of what they want to do offensively. And then as a receiver, he's only had a few limited opportunities, but he's a smart player with the ball in his hands in space. I mean, he won that game for him essentially, right? At 3rd and 7, short dump off, and he finds the edge and picks up 11 or 12 yards on that play. That's what sets up the go-ahead touchdown. And I think he's just been really, really impressive. I don't know if he's ever going to be like lead back, run for 1,000 yards type of back. Like, that might be in his future, but he's definitely somebody who's going to be a useful, helpful player on the offense, which I think in the 6th round is a good find for them.
Yeah, I think he's probably a good backup running back in this league, and he can have a long career doing that back. And I don't think anybody, when you draft a guy in the 6th round, you expect to get a lead back in this league. But he's certainly, this draft seems to me like they hit on almost every one of their picks, and they're going to be guys that make this roster for a number of years. And when you're drafting the 6th round, you can get a guy that can be your backup running back for a while. That's a win.
Yeah, 100%. And I think there's some reason for optimism there too, although, like you say, maybe he's not the starter of the future. We mentioned the defense. I want to talk about that. Also, kind of what to watch for in these last 4 games and maybe how hot the Saints could get down the stretch. First, we are going to take a break here on the Saints Insider, so we will be back right after this.
Did they ask you to do the commercial too?
Yeah, but they just gave me one line.
Bet like a Caesar. Like, we're going to sit here and we're going to tell them how Caesar's Sportsbook is just so easy to use that you can watch and bet thousands of sports events, even some NFL games.
They'll probably show us betting on our favorite players and teams at all the Vegas hotspots too.
Like, we have time for that montage.
I told him I couldn't do it.
They couldn't afford me.
Banking has come to a crossroads. Do you want to bank with an actual bank, with actual people? You know, one that you can walk into or drive through. Get real help from a real person. Or do you want a bank that lives inside your phone? A digital bank that gives you control of your money anywhere, anytime. Well, why not both?
Bank Plus, a partner in your corner, wherever that may be.
Welcome back to the Saints Insider. Hanging out with Jeff Duncan and Luke Johnson. I'm Zach Ewing on this Wednesday. Saints are coming off of a victory at Tampa Bay, headed to a 2-game homestand, their last 2 games at home this year against Carolina and then against the New York Jets. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have 2 shows a week, basically all year round, and post-game shows after every game as well. So subscribe to the Saints Insider on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify. Guys, want to talk a little bit about, we talked a lot about Tyler Shough and how he's been able to win some games, and it kind of harkens to something, we can ring the virtual bell again, but something you said Sean Payton told you before the season, Jeff, that a young quarterback needs 2 things. He needs a running game and he needs a good defense. And the running game is pretty iffy right now, but this defense is like, all of a sudden you look up, we're 3/4 of the way through the season. This is a top half unit in the NFL after being, bottom 5 last year.
Yeah, and so if we were going to make a comparison to Rattler, I would say that's a fair point, that the defense is playing better now than it was when Spencer was quarterbacking the team. I think that this is just a natural transition and evolution to a new scheme, and we knew it was going to take a little time for this defense to kind of figure it out, and I think they're still going to continue to get better, but you can see they're playing with a lot of confidence right now. They're playing in both phases very well. They're stopping the run well, and their coverage has been very good. And I think the next step is going to be, can they start making some more big plays, more disruptive plays? But right now, I think they're confident in what they're doing. And it hasn't just been 1 or 2 games. I mean, this has been about a month now where they've been playing well. And they made Bryce Young look very average in that game. And then he's come back and played very well since then. And the same thing with the Bucs, which we know the Bucs defense is a mess. I mean, it's what's going to be their undoing, but their offense can still roll, and they really did a good job with most of those weapons back for him. I know they were playing without Tristan Wirfs and Mike Evans, but still they have a lot of weapons, and they did a great job, probably the best job I've seen them do against a full Bucs offense since Baker's been there, going back to the DA days.
Yeah, I agree with everything Dunk just said. I think there's just been so much to like about this defense. And look, they did it, without Justin Reed, who's a really important player for them. Mm-hmm. He's maybe he's not making like the impact plays that people expect, like a $10 million a year safety to make, $11 million a year safety, whatever he's getting paid this year. But he's crucially important to what they do from a communication standpoint, from being in the right spot, from a leadership standpoint. And it was really impressive to see what they did against the Bucs without one of their best and most important players in the back end. And I think you're seeing contributions from just about everybody. And I mean, it goes deep. Like we saw Chris Rumph make some plays. Carl Granderson, who has not had a sack since September, I don't think, makes 2 huge TFLs. He's still engaged. You got Danny Stutzman playing a role. You got Isaiah Stallbird checking in on third downs to make plays. Kool-Aid McKinstry, Quincy Riley, both making plays. Jonas Sanker should have probably had a game-stealing interception, but he's going up and making a play on the ball. There's just so many guys who are contributing, and it makes you feel really confident about where this defense can go. Defense is a really, really hard thing to repeat on a year after year basis, but if they're doing this with what is kind of like a cobbled together defensive roster, at least as it goes to according it to the scheme, I think you have to feel really, really comfortable with where they're going in the future.
I'm really curious to see, and we'll talk more about this Friday, but how the Panthers may change things up, because they got completely dominated in that game after the first drive by this Saints defense. Bryce Young, as you mentioned, Jeff, who actually has played pretty well since then, looked totally lost. And I just wonder, going on the road, this is a huge game for Carolina, right? They need to figure something else out. And I wonder what the chess match will be there and the adjustments Carolina makes versus what the Saints will then do. Pretty fascinating to me. But I mean, this team is now number 6 in the NFL in passing defense. And some of that is game state. They've been behind in quite a few games where the other team's not even trying to throw. But I just think back to those first 6 weeks when Mac Jones is lighting them up, and then Drake May's lit everybody up, but Kyler Murray kind of lit them up in week 1, and that's just not happening anymore. I mean, these opposing quarterbacks are having a much more difficult time.
Yeah, I thought the game Sunday was. I realized it was a driving rainstorm. I get that. That probably played a factor, I'm sure, but that's a big step when you're playing a veteran quarterback. They played a lot of kind of younger quarterbacks and made them look pretty average. But this is Baker Mayfield, guy that we thought was an MVP candidate earlier in the year, and they have a lot of weapons there. And there just wasn't a lot downfield for him to find. He was having to hold the ball a lot and scramble around, do those Baker Mayfield type things. And that's happened consistently during this run, where we've seen the opposing quarterback have to hold the ball because coverage is holding up on the back end. And I just can't say enough good things about Brandon Staley. I mean, this is a guy that came in here with a little bit of a checkered track record. I mean, he's been really good and then kind of averaging sometimes. But this coaching job he's doing with, like Luke said, kind of a cobbled together mismatch unit on defense. I mean, they've got guys playing positions they've never played in this 3-4 scheme. And, I've had people say it's going to take 2 years for this thing to get right. For them to already show this kind of progress, especially the last month or so, very impressive.
Yeah, no doubt about that. You mentioned the last 4 games. Let's talk about that as we wrap things up here on the Saints Insider, sponsored by Bank Plus. Kind of our last segment. Saints are very slight underdogs at home against Carolina. I'm going to guess some of us will pick the Saints to win on Sunday at least. And then they've got a couple games where the Saints are going to be favored. Home against the Jets, at the Tennessee Titans. They wrap up in Atlanta, which is kind of been very hit or miss. They obviously beat the Saints in New Orleans, but you never know what you're going to get from the Falcons. Like, Luke, we've gone from saying, are the Saints going to be the number 1 pick and are they going to win even in a third game or anything, to now you look up and you're going, well, could they finish December with a winning record? Could they finish December and January 4-1? I mean, I don't want to get too optimistic. We talked about this some on the postgame show on Sunday. The last time we did this was after Carolina. They came home and fell flat on their face. So that is certainly within the realm of possibilities. But you look at the schedule, you look at where this team is trending, both with Tyler Shough on the offense and with Brandon Staley's defense, and it's pretty easy to dream of a strong finish here for the Saints.
Yeah, you can see it. But again, I'm glad you referenced what happened after the Carolina games. I think a lot of us were like, oh, they got Atlanta and Miami, and those are winnable games, and they did not win either of those games, and really took a very strong finish to the Miami game to even have a chance at it. I think we got to look at this team from a week to week basis and not focus on the big picture right now, because they're certainly capable of going out there and putting up a stinker this week against the Carolina Panthers. They're certainly capable of losing to teams like the Jets and Titans. Yeah, I think that they're on the right track. I really love what I've seen out of Tyler Shough. I think they're getting a different element of this offense by getting Devin Vele involved. We've seen him just make big play after big play for this team. But before I'm ready to really, really feel good about where they're at right now, they got to do it for more than 1 week at a time. That's just where I'm at.
Yeah, there are limitations on offense right now, I think, open the door in every game they play. I mean, they're lucky to break 20, right? So almost every team is going to be in the game. And if they get any kind of ancillary score, special teams or defensive, I mean, it's just going to be difficult for them to win. I mean, the only things you can really hang your hat on right now in this offense are maybe Olave, Vele, and a Tyler Shough scramble or something. I mean, there's just nothing else there. So good defenses are going to be able to really, I think, control this team, even Jets and stuff and down the stretch. They're going to have to play well to win those games.
I do want to say, though, that I'm really interested to see in these last couple of games, because now that we've seen them lean a little bit into the Tyler Shough run game, in that game against Tampa, obviously the 34-yard touchdown came on a designed run. It was a read option, but Shough had the ability to pull it. And then there was another run. I think it was an 11-yarder on the opening drive that was like a designed quarterback run. I think that aspect of it, that is essentially their Taysom Hill package that Tyler Shough has taken over. And I think if they lean into that a little bit, not too much, because he had the 4 season-ending injuries in college. A lot of that was based off of him running the football. But if they can lean into that a little bit, maybe it does open up some stuff for the run game, like it did against Tampa, and we can see a little bit more consistent down-to-down football from this team.
Okay. Priority number 1 in the last month is keep Tyler Shough healthy. That's the last thing you need for an injury-prone guy to get.
But look, this is like I'm not suggesting you go out there and run him 15 times a game. He is a big guy. He's not really built like Josh Allen or Drake May. He's not like the 6'5", 230. But I do think that is going to be part of what makes him successful as an NFL quarterback. So having 4 or 5 plays a game where you're thinking okay, there's an opportunity for Tyler to run here if it's there. I think it's okay to take it.
Yeah, I think the line is what? First down, touchdown, get down, right? I mean, it's got to be one of those 3 things.
But what I was going to say is that the flip side of this is interesting to me too, because you mentioned, Luke, they have this, it's certainly in the cards that they fall flat here. And I guess the flip side is the Saints lose 3 out of these last 4 games against a weak schedule, and they don't look very good. And they give the Tennessee Titans their 3rd win or something. In your opinion, does that change the way we look at next year? If they do, I mean, they're 3-10, they're out of it. It has nothing to do with the standings, but just the feel and the vibes here. Does that change if the Saints do fall flat here?
Well, I mean, yes, right. There's a big difference between closing the season strong and closing it on a weak note against a weak schedule, right? I think it just would naturally feel different to anybody who's watching it. But at the same time, I think everybody recognizes that this is not a good team. This is a rebuilding team. It's got a lot of young players playing really important roles. So a losing season was always the expectation and always in the cards. So as long as there are bits and pieces for you to pull from and be I feel good about that. I feel good about the quarterback. We can build around this. We have to change this, but we're right there if we do the right things. I still think you can feel optimistic going into the offseason, even if they do fall flat. Because I was feeling pretty good about Tyler Shough even after the losses to Atlanta and Miami, because I saw enough from him in those to feel like he's somebody you can build around. And if you've got somebody who's going to be making $2 million a year for the next 3 seasons as your franchise quarterback, you can do a lot of stuff with that, especially if you're not having to worry about using a top 5, top 10 pick on a quarterback. And you can get the guys around him to make life easier on him and make the offense better around him.
All right, that's going to be our show for today. We'll be back Friday to preview Saints hosting the Panthers. I'm sure Luke is happy to be home until after Christmas. After, 4 of the last 6 weeks you've been on the road now?
Yeah, my 2-year-old is like, Daddy's going on a plane again? I'm like, yeah, unfortunately, Daddy's going on a plane again. I'm sorry, but she's going to be very happy to have me around for Christmas.
Yeah, that'll be great. So we got a couple weeks at home here for the Saints. We'll have that preview show for you Friday, and of course the post-game show on Sunday at the Dome. So until then, for Jeff Duncan and Luke Johnson, I'm Zach Ewing. Thank you for watching the Saints Insider.